This is Tim.
And I'm Nicole, and this is Fitness Featured.
Well, when I decided to start, doing marathons, very first races was my only DNF, and I vowed that wasn't going to happen again, and so started training a little differently, and finished my first marathon the next year. And I looked at my time and I realized that I was only about a minute per mile off actually qualifying for Boston, and so I just decided that had to be my goal. Decided right at that moment that it just had to be, had to make it, and spent 4 or 5 years training for that moment to actually get my BQ, and finally made that at a race in Arkansas. Running Boston, there's times that I think back on it and I didn't take it all in as much as I wish that I had. I didn't absorb the energy from the crowds as much. I barely remember that last mile, and which is why I kind of have that quest to go do it again. I mean, that's why I want to get my BQ again and actually feel like I can experience that race. Now, the night of the accident, it started like a normal Tuesday run was like in 2016. We had a big group that would meet on Tuesday nights at City Hall, and we would run from there, and we would break into smaller pace groups, and so there were 4 of us that were running together. I had just wrapped my head around that I wanted to try and get my BQ again, and I had just started talking to my 3 running friends about that, and we came up on this intersection, and there was a little bit of traffic, but we in our running group we had this standing rule that if we had to make eye contact with the driver. If nobody made eye contact with the driver, we were stopping. We also had that standing rule that if we saw a cell phone in their hands or that they looked at a cell phone at any point, we were stopping. And the driver that was the first car in line at that intersection checked off both those rules. She looked right at us. There was no phone in her hand, and we had the crosswalk signal, so we ran into the intersection to cross this street, and right as I planted my left leg in front of her car, she accelerated to turn right on red. My friend Chris yelled my name right at that moment, basically, and as I looked down and saw the license plate hitting my left knee, and instantly knew it was going to be bad. I didn't know how bad. At that moment, I thought it was possibly a joint issue, a ligament issue, something like that. I had no idea, didn't even think about the fact that it would be any broken bones in that accident, and laid there on the ground for a little bit. Amazingly, an Iowa State policeman was driving by almost within, it was a minute, and he was pulled in behind that car and had his lights on and was taking care of traffic, and he had the heat on in the car. It was a little bit chilly out, and so they lifted me up, and I sat in the passenger side of the police car while waited for the ambulance to come, and got to the ER, and that's when Dr. Wormy at McFarland Clinic came in and started to talk about the severity of the tibial plateau fracture, and that that running days were probably over. I think, I don't even know if it was a probably. I think he just said my running days were over, and that with the severity of the injury, that I should go down to University of Iowa clinic and have my surgery done by Dr. Willie. Injury happened on a Tuesday. Dr. Wormy decided that night that Dr. Willie was the correct person to take care of it from there. Called him, had the conversation. We went down on Thursday to meet Dr. Willie and have a pre-surgery discussion and appointment. And then drove down to Iowa City on Sunday night, checked into a hotel so I could be at the U of I hospital right away, ready to go on Monday morning. Got there, met everyone again, and then really next thing I knew, I woke up in the recovery room. So the most interesting moment to me was, I was sitting there feeling pretty sorry for myself. I was pretty miserable, feeling like, everything had just changed and all for the worse, and just, and they wheeled in my roommate that he right away asked if we could just pull the curtains back so we could, talk face to face from across the room. And so we sat there talking for a little while, and this guy was a professional pilot car driver, and he had been involved in a car wreck that had crushed his right arm. And they had spent 3 or 4 or 5 days, I don't know what it was, 6 days, trying to save his arm, and they figured out that they couldn't. And so that day he had his right arm amputated. And he was just the most upbeat guy. And we're sitting there talking, and he here was this guy that had just had his arm amputated, and I just remember him saying, we just have to keep moving forward. We just have to keep moving forward. It was like a godsend that this guy was there, because he helped mold my attitude into a much better place.
I think about the times that you've talked about that over your, recently, but then just over your recovery in general. Yeah. And it was a pivotal moment of him giving you that hope that, no, that's what we have to do, just keep moving forward. And when you heard that, I could tell it changed your attitude.
Oh, yeah.
On, and just, it almost gave you a little bit of direction too, that I guess I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. I'm not sure recovery was always cheery.
No. Had some ups and downs, had a few moments. I remember, it was a week or two later after the surgery that, I really wasn't in that hopeless category, but, certainly more of an anger mode of just, not being able to do anything and yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time, Nicole helped me through that one, because that was, she called me out on it right away, and again, it was couldn't continue to just be mad about everything. I remember going for, I think it was the 6-month check with Dr. Willie, and he gave me the okay to start running again, and as a joke, I ran out of the hospital to run to the car, but
I think I have video of that.
Yeah, it was there was a lot of limping in that running, because the left leg still wasn't working right, and it really was about 2 years before I felt like my stride was starting to get even again. It was difficult at first. Then finally got to that point that, it was 2 years later, ran first 10K, and then fall of 2022 ran first marathon back, and so that was those were all wins. Those were all good wins.
Yeah.
So
I think just that experience of watching you get back, and especially that race, that Des Moines Marathon, when you ran that, I think it was just that every minute of just the smile on your face when you'd come around the corner, and I was there to kind of support, and it was a great feeling.
I know there's a lot of runners that just they run races because of to earn that medal, and medals, the marathon medal or 5K medal has never really meant anything to me, and so I don't keep any of my medals. I discard most of them. I kept my Boston medal, and that's the only one that I keep around here. And when I was running the Des Moines Marathon, I decided I was going to send the medal to Dr. Willie, because I think he realized the day that he sent me off that I was going to run again, and I wanted him to realize what he had done to get me there. And so I sent him a thank you letter explaining that obviously that his skill level had more to do with it than my determination to run again, because if he hadn't put my knee back together, there's no way I could have been even thinking about a marathon again.
I think one thing is having a running community is pretty powerful too. When I think about all of the people we've met along the way, of whether it be a group run or at races, it's that same spirit of just getting out there and doing something different.
Ames used to have a really strong running group, and it had kind of gone away, and everybody had gone back to running solo, and it is kind of nice to see that we're starting to have this running group coming back together, and that is one of the things that just ecstatic when Seth came into town with fitness sports, actually, because we are starting to see this resurgence of there being a group movement of running.
My name is Seth Kilborn. I'm the manager here at Fitness Sports in Ames. So when we first decided to open the store here in Ames, we saw that there was a lot of runners here. I lived here for a few years and just saw the runners here. And I was urging us to open a store here in Ames to give those runners kind of the backing that they deserved. And so we opened here in July, and we've had great support from them. We hope that we can help them with that same amount of support as well. As far as the community goes, I ran in college and I had a great time. We just had a really tight-knit team. Everybody's supporting everybody. Running and workouts itself gets easier when you've got that around you. So we really want to nurture that here in Ames and just help everybody to be their best.